if you've been listening to stuff that I've been putting on my channel and following that along, you'll realise I love talking about the 4 elements, the temperaments of life, and also how they correlate with the 4 seasons. So in all of us, we all go through 4 seasons of life. And so those seasons are the early part of our life, the springtime, which is childhood and adolescence. And then after that springtime phase finishes, we then go on to the next season, which is summer. So adolescence is the beginning of the summer period of our life, where we're moving from growing into young adulthood, young adult life. And so in the teenage, the juvenile years, and then young adult life, we're learning about the passion and the fire of life. And in that time, fertility is blossoming, and we reach the stage where we're technically an adult. We can actually reproduce our own species. And then once we go through that phase, we then go into the stage known as the autumn season, or which is the earth time of our life. And that's a very distinct and powerful time, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that shortly. So, but once we've gone through the earth element, that is a very longer time period in our life cycle, and then finally we come into the later part of our life, which is the winter of our life, which is the water element time. And so you can see how the elements and the seasons correspond together, and they have this cyclical pattern that just keeps repeating. And as I've mentioned before, some of us are born with an affinity towards particular elements and less of the other ones. So that can also influence the seasonal pattern and how we adapt to the changing cycles in our life. So I'm going to now focus on what a woman goes through and the changes she goes through after she's given birth. So this is women's business, but it's great for us guys to know this as well, because society doesn't understand this generally. What I'm saying here is that when a woman's gone through the spring and then the summer of her life, and she's growing and maturing, if that's done in a positive way, when she reaches the earth phase where she's now ready actually to reproduce, she's going to become a parent, then she'll be ready for this time. And so motherhood will come to her naturally. And motherhood is a beautiful time if a woman's ready for that and wanting that. It's a very difficult time for a woman if she's emotionally not ready for it, if she hasn't matured through the other 2 seasons yet, and she's not fulfilled. And so motherhood can be a huge challenge for a woman in that stage. But what is never told to us, told to women as well, is that when a woman's been pregnant and she's full of life and then she's given birth to that life, her whole energy field, her whole aura, if you like, or her spirit self has made this huge change. And what does that mean? That means that she's wide open. So particularly for the first 6 weeks after giving birth, not only is her body physically open and beginning to slowly close back in again, so her female system has been stretched and expanded and released this new life, and now it's got to contract back in again. And that process, if the woman's healthy, will happen gently and gradually over this 6-week time period, so that at the end of that time she's finished cleaning the uterus out. And in traditional cultures that was done very deliberately, and there was a great significance to it. So when a young mother for the first time had the first child, the older women would gather round and they would give her herbs, and they would give her steaming procedures that she had to go through to clean her system out of it, so there was no retention of any of the membranes from holding in that child and feeding that child. So in traditional medicine, in the Chinese system, they said that the womb is the celestial palace. It's the garden that nourishes the child. And so once that child is born, this woman is now initiated into the earth element. She is now going to be a mother. And earthliness is all about parenting. It's about a lot of other things as well, but what do we do when we're a parent? We've got to be responsible for this new life. We've got to feed that new life. We've got to be patient and calm and give that stability and reliability so that that child can grow up and in turn grow their earth element, be nourished from the mother, from the breasts of the mother. And nature's provided us with these beautiful tools to do that. But women nowadays often don't feel supported. And there's no one there, or that's not actually true. There are those there, but it's generally underplayed. Women are encouraged to hurry up, have the child, go back to where they were and get on with life, and they're not honoured for being mothers. And that's a really awful thing to happen to women nowadays, because they're not honoured for giving the gift that they're part of, the gift of what they're here to do, which is to mother. So what women need to understand, particularly after the birth and everything's coming back into place and there's contractions still happening sometimes, especially after they've had more than the first child, the uterus is coming back into its place where it's got to be, and it's got to contract its way back. And she's in this place energetically where she's still wide open, and she's in this cocoon with this baby. And if the birth was harmonious and pleasant and beneficial and the mother was supported, there's a beautiful bond of energy that's happening there that nourishes the child as well. And the woman's allowed to do that natural process of connecting and getting to know that child, and the child is getting to know that mother and can communicate its needs to the mother. So I just wanted to sort of give you that understanding of how the elements and the temperaments go through all these cycles in life. And so there's lots more to say about women's health, but that's all I'm going to say for now. More coming later.